My name is Veronica Calvillo, and I'm a professor in the Spanish department, but I'm also the current chair of the Latin American, Caribbean, and Latino Studies program at Gettysburg. And the Latin American, Caribbean, Latino Studies program has a combined major with Spanish and Latin American studies. And I'll leave that, and I'll let my colleague, Professor Kaempfer, introduce himself, and then I'll just mention a little bit later about the major.
I was responding to one of the students who was not able to get in. She didn't have the link. So, you want to start with, I'm going to start with the Spanish major, general information. All of you, if you are interested in Spanish, over the summer, when you are completing the documentation on the board you're gonna get, one of the options is for you to complete the placement test. That's gonna be the first step. So if you have taken Spanish or not Spanish at all, you need to take the placement test. The placement test is gonna tell us at what level of Spanish you are. In the college, we have divided mostly in two major sections. One, language, which is normally 4 semesters starting from scratch, 101, 102, 201, 202. Then Spanish 301 is our first class, and 302 for heritage learners and speakers. 302 is the class for the first class of the minor and major. Depending on your placement test, you're gonna put in one of these courses, and in order for you to complete the language requirement, you need to take the following class in that sequence. So if you are placed in 101, you need to take 102. If you take 201, you're gonna be taking 201 and then 202. If you are placed in 202, you take 202, and then to finish the language requirement, it's 301. So it's a sequence. If you have completed more than 3 years of Spanish, normally you're gonna be placed at a high level. If you are a Spanish speaker, you're gonna be able to take classes at the 302 level. So that is the first task of the summer, complete the placement test, right? The major and the minor, beyond the language requirements, require a total of 9 classes, and 3 of them can be completed abroad. All that information is in our website. So I'm gonna leave that information for all of you. You can access the website. I'm putting the link to the site in the chat. So you're gonna be able to click on it and get the specific information about the Spanish major. But we can go back to this once Vero explained the Spanish LACLS or the just LACLS minor.
Okay, so the combined major that we have in LACLS is 12 credits. And what we mean by credits is 6 classes in Spanish with a focus in Latin America, and 6 classes in Latin American studies. Those classes can be interdisciplinary because we offer interdisciplinary classes across different disciplines: history, sociology, English. So we do have all those classes. They're listed as in Latin American studies courses. We have a 100 level class, a 200 level class, and a 300 level class. And those are part of the 6 classes that you would be taking for the combined major in Latin American, Caribbean, Latino studies and Spanish. And then the other 6 courses would be in Spanish through the Spanish department. A 301 or a 302 would be the gateway course to start that major, just like Spanish would be. We do require all our students to study abroad. in Latin America. And we have different places, and that can be also be found in the website. But we have places to study abroad in Argentina, in Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, and most recently, Costa Rica. So 4 of those courses, so mind you, I told you 12 classes, 6 in Spanish and 6 in Latin American studies across disciplines. And 4 of those courses can be taken abroad when you study abroad. So essentially it would be 4 classes in the Spanish department and 4 classes in the Latin American studies area. And that would also be on the website. And I believe that it's also Professor Kaempfer just posted the link for you guys to check this out in terms of the website. It is very important that you, if you're considering Spanish, also in Latin American, Caribbean, Latino Studies Spanish major, to take the placement exam so that you can be placed in the proper Spanish course. Now, for the minor, we encourage you to take a second language. That could be Portuguese when you study abroad in Brazil, or that could be also Spanish, but it's only 6 courses of with the Latin American focus across the disciplines. So the minor would be 6 courses and the major would be 12 courses. But those are divided equally in the Spanish department and Latin American studies. And I can also place my email if you have more questions, but I'm sure that our wonderful students who are here today can answer more questions about the major and their experiences doing Spanish and doing Latin American studies and Caribbean combined with the Spanish also. So I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Holly O'Malley. I'm a current senior, and I'm a Spanish and mathematical economics double major. And I'm currently in the capstone, or like the final class of the major with Professor Calvillo.
Hi everyone, my name is Hera Molina. I am a LACLS and Spanish and music double major. So I'm doing the combined major with LACLS and Spanish, and I'm also at the conservatory. I have no classes this semester, sadly, with either one of the professors, but Profe Calvillo is my advisor, and I will be taking Spanish with Profe Kaempfer in the fall.
Besides all locations in Latin America for study abroad, for those completing the Spanish major, they can also go to 2 locations in Spain, Salamanca and Madrid. Remember that for Spanish and also for Spanish LACLS majors, going abroad for 1 semester is a requirement. And most of our students try to go for 2 semesters. I know probably this is not the best time to be talking about study abroad because of all of the pressure from the environment, the pandemic and everything else. But that is part of the general requirements we have for both majors. And at this point, I think it would be great if we can answer questions from you, either for the professors or the students. And as I did before, I unmute you so you can control that and intervene and ask questions anytime you want. I don't know if in the meantime, Veronica, what happened with students who are completing AP credits?
Okay, so anybody's taking AP right now in your classes?
Oh yeah, I am.
Okay, so if you had taken AP, like AP Spanish or AP Spanish Literature, and you are going to take the placement exam, the AP Spanish exam or the AP Spanish Literature exam, if you score either a 4 or 5, that will give you a credit. And so you'll start with the credit and you automatically are placed into the gateway course, which is Spanish 301 or 302. And as Professor Kaempfer said before, Spanish 301 is the advanced conversation and composition class. And also Spanish 302 is the same, advanced composition and conversation for heritage learners. And a heritage learner is someone who has learned also Spanish in the household. So if you have family that speaks Spanish to you, if you grew up with speaking Spanish not only in the classroom or you learn it in the classroom, but you also speak it at home, then that defines you as a heritage learner or speaker. And so if you happen to take the placement at not the placement, you will take the placement once you come to Gettysburg to be placed in the right Spanish class. But if you take the AP Spanish and you either score a 4 or a 5, that gives you a credit coming in. And that's also part of the language requirement. When you come to Gettysburg, you have to take 2 courses to complete a language requirement. And so that would count as one of your language requirements, and then that would place you automatically into a 301. And I think it's students that are placed into 301, it's so important to take Spanish 301 or Spanish 302 your first semester, because it gives you the more opportunities to explore other things and to major very easily in Spanish. And yeah, because then you only need 8 more courses once you start the beginning of your first semester with the 301. So it's very lucky.
If you have a question, I believe you have the option to raise a hand or make some kind of gesture or type on the chat room if you don't want to say something, you want to ask a question. In the meantime, a question for Hera and Holly. Since Hera is in the conservatory, and Holly is in mathematical economics. Normally, those are areas very distant from what many people think about Spanish. Was it too hard for you to make both those majors and areas compatible?
Originally for myself, it was because I started off as a music education major, and that in itself is like a 36 credit major, which is basically like my whole life is planned out for me from the moment I get to Gettysburg. But I was able to sort of like double dip in a lot of my courses. So a lot of the courses that I've taken from like the LACLS standpoint, I've been able to use those as credit for other courses in like as like the Gettysburg College curriculum. So I'm currently taking an English class this semester with an English professor on Latinx literature in the United States, and that counts towards my English American British literature requirement because I'm also on the certification track to be a teacher. I think that was like the biggest thing for me was trying to figure it out, but I was able to.
Holly?
And then I feel like my situation is also a little different. I think I haven't taken any classes that have overlapped with Spanish and with econ. I guess that's how the econ major is structured, and the fact that they can be quite different disciplines. But I think it worked out primarily because, as Professor Calvillo said, I placed into 301 for Spanish, and then for economics, I kind of started early and had some math credit from high school. And then I think just being able to communicate with my professors and my advisors about what courses I need to take when I wanted to go abroad and what I would have to take there, it helped to make sure that everything ran smoothly.
And there are some questions for all of us in the chat room. Yes. I'm gonna take the last one and then I leave all the others to Vero. Is it common for people to switch from a minor in Spanish to a major? Yes. Most of the people who's gonna be taking Spanish, they don't have the decision to go into a major. However, once they start taking classes and they take advantage of the possibility of studying abroad, the transition into the major is extremely easy. My only suggestion would be, if you are interested in Spanish, talk to us the moment you arrive in the college, so we can work with you to make sure that Spanish and the requirements are going to be compatible with any other major you are trying to complete, and give you the flexibility to plan according to your own expectations. taking the placement test over the summer and talking to us once you get into the college is going to help us all to plan it the best way we can.
Yes, and I would add to it that I think it's, I don't know, from the way I look at it, I think it would, if you plan to either minor or major, I think you should go all in and think of majoring. And then in the end, if for some reason or another you're not able to go abroad, because like we said, abroad is a requirement for either of the majors, whether you plan to major in Spanish or you plan to major in the combined major, you have to go abroad. And so I think it's wise to plan as you were majoring, because you only need 6 classes to minor in Spanish. And Spanish 301, if you place right away the first semester that you're here, that would count towards the major and towards completing your language requirement. So it counts for 2 things. It counts to start the major or the minor, and it also counts to fulfill the language requirement for the Gettysburg curriculum. And so to answer the questions in terms of our college and high school classes accepted, yes, we do. I have to evaluate them. I'm actually the person that evaluates any incoming course. That one thing that I suggest first is to take the placement exam and let us know where have you been placed, and then provide a copy of that syllabus or the schedule, the schedule that you get in terms of what you guys learned in the class. So then I can equate it with one of the classes that we have here. And then in terms of what it's the equivalent of, then I can say, okay, this is equivalent. So if you place, for instance, you place into 301, once you take the placement exam, then if you're taking another Spanish class in high school, then that means that requirement would be the equivalent of a 202, because it goes Spanish 101, Spanish 102, Spanish 201, and 202. And so then Spanish 202 would be that class that you would take that you have taken in high school. That's how it would be the equivalent if you placed in that. Let's see. Yes, AP credit. Yes, AP credit can, again, if you've taken an AP credit, yes, AP credit will come if you score a 4 or a 5. So you would have to take the placement exam. I mean, you have to take the AP exam in order to count as an AP and also score a 4 or a 5. And I think that goes for all AP classes, whether it's economics, English, social studies, geography, any of the AP exams that you take. I suggest that you take. I know it's costly because you have to pay for the AP exam in any subject. But I think it's worth, if you're most likely to score a 4 or a 5, I would consider it, taking that and bringing those credits. We do have a lot of students that take AP courses and bring in credits to start off already in college. So yes, you can take AP credit, and that will count towards either the minor or the major. Yeah. Let's see. I've taken Spanish 3.
Any other question you may have, or any other information, Holly and Hera, that we may be forgetting? There are plenty of opportunities for students to be engaged on campus if they are interested in Spanish, not only in terms of the language, but also in connection with the people who speak the language, either with the community around Gettysburg, with the students' organizations, with some kind of initiative with the department. If you are interested in an overall inclusive education where Spanish, your language, is going to be part of the process, there are going to be always people here willing to work with you. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be complicated sometimes to schedule it. It's going to depend on your busy life. And college students tend to have a very busy life. I still do not understand why, but probably Hera and Holly are gonna correct me on that.
So I am actually Currently, as of right now, I am the treasurer of the Latin American Student Association. So we're one of like the many organizations on campus that kind of like incorporate this idea of like Spanglish, which is obviously a combination of two languages. That's a great opportunity. We, like many other clubs on campus, we meet once every other week, and we usually meet in the afternoon time slots just because we know that it's kind of like a regulation that most of the classes happen like morning to like around 4 p.m. ish. And so a lot of the clubs like Latin American Student Association meet around like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. around that time slot. Also, a couple, I'm sorry, that was my email. A couple other like organizations that we have on campus is the Painted Turtle Farm that we have through the Center for Public Service. That's a really great way for us students to sort of connect with the community. It's a garden that we have on campus. It's like a 5-minute walk for most of the first year residence halls. And we usually have like a lot of the local like immigrant community come, and we just like farm. That's a great way. We also have Casa de la Cultura, and we do ESL. And those are kind of ways for us students to get involved with like the younger population. So a lot of like elementary schoolers and middle schoolers. And that's also where you kind of like practice your Spanish, because it's a lot of them are students like from the immigrant communities. So I think those are a couple of sort of like the ways that students can be involved. I think
there is another question. It says AP credit can count towards fulfilling the language. Oh, that was you, Veronica.
That was me that was answering, because I wanted to clarify that the AP credit will count towards fulfilling the language requirement. But the actual major, whether it's Spanish or the combined major that we mentioned earlier, starts with the gateway course of 301 or 302. And so if you bring in the credit from AP, you would most likely, and you have scored a 3 or a 4 or a 5 in an AP Spanish class, you can count that credit as your language requirement credit, one of them, because you need 2. And then you would start in the fall, like Holly started, Spanish 301 in the fall, and that would be the second language requirement course that you need. And it would also count as the start of your major or your minor in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
It is always great to remember, and I'm sending it to everybody through the chat room, that you are coming to a liberal arts education, liberal arts institution. It means you will be taking classes across campus, across disciplines, across divisions, in order to respond to the expectations of a professional life fully involved, integrated into the world in which we all live. So the mission of the college is the statement made by the college. The majors, the minors, the disciplines are tools for you to find the way to reach that goal. So even if you are taking Spanish, even if you are taking mathematical economics, or you go to the conservatory, or you are studying sciences, you need to keep in mind that is the kind of institution that would like to have this engagement, this conversation, this dialogue across disciplines. You would be coming to a residential college where living on campus is a major factor in the creation of a community. The level of integration or disintegration is going to be depending on your efforts and many of the obstacles that you're going to find like in any other kind of spaces and institutions. So the notion of a community, of an integrated education, of reaching the main goals of the mission of the college are absolutely integrated in this process. It's not complicated to combine majors. Some students go excessively for triple majors. I don't normally recommend that. Some others can try 3 majors and 2 minors. But at the end, that is a liberal arts institution. You are majoring on something, but you should be able to function intellectually and even professionally, knowing from completely different areas. And we, the faculty, are always willing to talk to you. Some of us could be more or less communicative, but we're gonna be always willing for your questions. Our doors are open for you. And if they are closed, you have the right to knock on them when we have the obligation to open that door to engage with you in conversation. The reason why we all are here is you, Holly, Hera, and every single student. That is the final reason why we are here. And our disciplines, research, and interest are always around your interests, expectations, and areas of interest. So just to mention it.
Well, I was wondering, I was thinking, because I saw the chat and I answered briefly, but I wanted Holly and Hera to speak a little bit of how is it that they plan to integrate, which is the $1 million question, their Spanish into their careers, or why Spanish was a choice when they came to Gettysburg, aside from doing music education and doing economics. Because I know that this is something that your parents ask all the time. Why do you want to major in Spanish? What is that going to do with your career? And so, yeah, if they can speak to that, I think they can speak to that. I can't speak to that because I do that for a living.
By the way, if I disappear, Professor Calvillo is going to be in charge of the rest of the meeting.
So I think, well, I had taken Spanish for all 4 years of high school. My school didn't offer an EP, but like I said before, I was able to place into the 301. So I figured, as Professor Calvillo said, it would be best to start off my first semester taking 301. And I had that with Professor Calvillo as well. So starting my time and ending my time in the Spanish major with you. And I really had a very positive experience with that. And I think as Hera mentioned, there's a very strong community aspect, I feel, to the Spanish major, where we are encouraged to, and have to as well, but encouraged to go out to the community and become involved and collaborate with the community and understand the issues that are affecting, again, the community. And so I was a volunteer with the adult ESL program for my first year for both semesters. And I think that really had a very profound impact on how I viewed my ability to engage with the language and the culture. And so I continued on with, I forget what the next course, I think they changed the numbers, the next course in this, in the major sequence, my spring semester. And then after that, I just felt very passionate, I guess, and very excited about the idea of pursuing 2 different schools of thought, if you will, because I think having economics has allowed me to think in a certain analytical way, maybe more quantitative. But then having Spanish has really given another dynamic to my experience in college. I think having the 2 majors allows me to use like both sides of my brain. And I appreciate the way that the departments function in different ways, and the way that I've been able to get to know different people too. So I think, as someone who also appreciates having a diversity of subject areas and things to really understand and learn about, going back again to what Professor Kaempfer said about a liberal arts school, that really motivated me to declare a major in both of the things that I have majors in now.
Well, for me, being a music education major was already hard enough. I remember that when I first started thinking about being an LACLS major, I originally started off as a minor. And then Profe Calvillo was like, you can do it, right? And she convinced me, and I did it. And it was honestly the best decision of my life. Just because I wanted to do the LACLS major because I wanted to learn more about my culture. I've noticed that in our education system, like anything that's sort of like kind of beyond our American history we don't really learn about, and it was a nice kind of like different take on it. Also, being a music education major and wanting to be a future teacher, I wanted to know how to incorporate sort of these different aspects of different parts of the world. And within the music major, we kind of focus a lot on like Balinese and like Asian and Indonesian aspects of like non-Western music. But with Latin American studies, I was able to see how like music from different parts of the world affect our communities and affect like the Latin American community, not only in like the US, but around the world, because we're everywhere. And so I thought that like, you know what, maybe this will be a good thing for me. The first class I took within the major was actually a 300 level class with Profesora Calvillo my sophomore spring. And that was the first time I was ever exposed, not my sophomore spring, excuse me, my first year spring. And that was like the first time that I was ever exposed to it. I loved it, learned so much about it, and it was a nice way to sort of like immerse myself deeply in what I was going to be studying. I think for me, the hardest thing was kind of integrating both together, just because the music education degree is so meticulous and like everything has to be planned out. So kind of going back to the one question that somebody asked, like it really depends on the major you're doing, because not all majors are the same. Some of them are like 36 degree credit degrees like mine, and others are like a little less. So really, I think that was my spiel. I'm planning on going to Cusco in Peru in the spring. Hopefully, if everything is a little like less hectic, that'll happen. I'm planning on taking my methods because I'm getting my certification in Spanish teaching too. So I'll be taking my methods there.
And then last spring, so a year ago, I was studying abroad in Santiago in Chile.
Awesome. Yeah, and as Professor Kaempfer had mentioned before, when you study abroad, 3 of those courses when you go abroad will count for the Spanish major. 4 courses will count for the Latin American, Caribbean, Latino studies and Spanish combined major. And the way we distribute those is that 2 of those courses will be elective Latin American courses and 2 would be elective Spanish courses. So all those 4 courses that you take abroad would count towards the combined major. For the Spanish, you can choose to study anywhere in Latin America or Spain, and 3 of those courses will count from the 9 that you have to take. And so you would take 6 in on campus, and the other 3 would be from abroad. But
so to answer the question, it really depends on the program that you're doing. So at least for Latin American countries in Spain, I know we have stay homes, which is SIT, when you stay with a host family, and then IFSA Butler, which is when you stay at a university. I'm going to be staying with a host family, and I'm going to be working with a local school. So that's kind of like what my experience hopefully will be. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but that's kind of like the plan.
Yeah, I went to Santiago with IFSA as well. We were directly enrolled in, we had an option of taking classes at 3 universities, and I ended up taking classes at 2. But I was living with a host family. So I think some people can live in the university dorms. Well, at least in Chile, there weren't students, even the Chilean students didn't live in the dorms. But yeah, I think the people that I know that went abroad my year and then in past years, I think pretty much everyone was with a host family.
yeah, and I'll add a little bit to that if I can. I was just in Rio, in Brazil, visiting an abroad program that we have. And I visited the institute and where students take classes in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And I know the one, about 90% of our students at Gettysburg College go abroad. So abroad, it's a great experience. It is accounted in your tuition also. So that's why it's affordable for everyone to go abroad. And I know that the abroad, which is, you can find more information about for the Center for Global Studies, or in the Center for Global Studies, one of the missions that they have is for everybody to have a host family experience. So although you might hear something about other institutions, other universities, but at Gettysburg College, we focus that all of our students stay with the host family. And so, yes, there is that option for some universities, and that's probably what you have heard if you visit other campuses, other universities while you're selecting your college or university to go to. But at Gettysburg, we ensure that part of that experience abroad is with the host family. So you do get to live with the host family because that's most likely the choice that the university or Gettysburg College makes when they choose a study abroad program. So in Rio de Janeiro, we visited a family that hosted students from Gettysburg College. So that's one of the things that we do. We do a lot. And Hera, she just posted the link, so you can copy that and check out the programs that might be useful to see what programs not only are accepted for the Spanish major, but when you click, it also tells you what programs might be accepted for another major that you're planning to explore once you're here at Gettysburg College. Thank you. It was great to meet you virtually, and we hope to see you in the fall.